Glassner demonstrates in painstaking detail that Americans are terrified of false threats that are not in fact going to kill us, and explains why. Discussing the frequent American epidemics of panic over risks such as airplane crashes and child kidnapping, Glassner pulls up hard data. As he points out, only a few hundred children nationwide are kidnapped each year, and flying in a plane is more than 10 times safer than driving. We worry about these extremely rare dangers, shark attacks and the like, because people who profit from such fears, executives at broadcast TV networks, and the makers of pharmaceutical drugs who advertise on them, put a great deal of effort into keeping us afraid. Though challenged by both liberal activists and right-wing academics, Glassner's main theses stood the test of time, and his bestseller remains relevant today. I am attempting to do for race relations what Glassner did for consumer advocacy: use hard data to penetrate an intentionally created fog of exaggerations and lies, and expose a surprisingly positive reality. Many Americans today, especially on the activist left, seemed to believe that the United States is a racist hellhole on the brink of civil war. In the mainstream media, we hear almost constant talk about scary new forms of racism, white privilege, cultural appropriation, and subtle bigotry. The Black Lives Matter (BLM) movement argues that a near genocide is underway in 2019 America, including police and vigilante murders of tens of thousands of black men annually. The platform of the Movement for Black Lives, one of the founding documents of Black Lives Matter, claims that immediate reparations for slavery and the opening of America's borders are the only ways that minorities can be compensated for the harms currently being done to us. In reaction, the equally absurd alt-right claims that a white genocide is underway. Whites are being murdered in job lots by people of color, who are also engaged in a well-organized attempt to breed whites out of existence. Some of the most potent pieces of evidence cited in support of these theories, especially by the left, but also to an increasing extent by the dissident right, are ghastly examples of hate crime. Who can forget the torn hijab on the woman allegedly attacked by a mob of Trump supporters days after the 2016 election? Or the burnt black church desecrated with the spray-painted words, "Vote Trump"? Or the multiple death threats delivered to terrified students of color at Keene College? It is taboo to say this, but it must be said. The novel theories of subtle but pervasive racial prejudice, white privilege, cultural appropriation, and so forth, are complete nonsense, and many of the hate crimes cited in support of those theories never happened. No sane person denies that there are still racists in America. The results of my own research indicate that roughly 1 in 10 whites and 1 in 7 African Americans tests as a bigot. That figure for whites tracks fairly closely with the findings of past researchers such as Snyderman and Carmines. I have never met a serious social scientist who contends that hostility on the basis of race and ethnicity does not exist. Ethnic conflict is indeed the main subject that many of us study, but it should also be obvious that the United States has taken massive steps away from racism over the past 100 years, both in our institutions and in individual attitudes. American schools were formally desegregated in 1954. The Civil Rights Act made institutional racism and sexism actually illegal in 1964, and affirmative action became the law of the land via the Philadelphia Plan back in 1967. It is simply bizarre to argue that these measures did not, generally speaking, succeed. Little more than half a century ago, in the 50s and 60s, white juries in states like Mississippi were refusing to convict the perpetrators of lynchings. The men who tortured Emmett Till to death for flirting with a white woman were acquitted in deliberations that lasted barely an hour, with one juror claiming that it took that long only because the jury took time out to drink soda. George Wallace was reelected on a platform of standing in the schoolhouse door to oppose equal education.